to the October work session of the board. We'll get started. First thing up is comments from our student representative.
Homecoming is coming. So as you get, exactly. Graduation is getting closer. Homecoming is less than 2 weeks away. It's something I've been counting down ever since I started getting here, and everyone's extremely excited. So we had our first official student council meeting where we decided our theme, which is going to be TV shows. So the senior class's TV show was Friends. The 11th grade class is Grey's Anatomy. 10th grade is The Office, and 9th grade is iCarly. So all of us, all the student council officers and helpers from each grade are recreating floats and a bunch of different activities that kind of encompass these different TV shows. We also talked about our Spirit Week. Monday is going to be PJ Day. Tuesday is going to be 80s Out. Wednesday is going to be TV show day where we dress like our TV show characters. Thursday we have off. And then Friday is going to be the blue and white out with the blackout for the seniors. Also, there is a homecoming game on the 21st. It's going to be a really good game against Ruston, where Great Valley is 3-0 in Chessmont, and Ruston just had their first loss in the Chessmont, so I recommend that everyone comes for that game. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to another victory. All right, turning over to program. One-to-one update.
Chuck. Am I on? Great. I couldn't see the, oh, there's the red. It's the first time presenting with the new mics, so. Good evening. We're here. I'm here tonight to share an update. This past April, we shared a little bit about our progress of our first year of implementation. I'm going to go over a little bit of that tonight as well to share what we talked about then and where we are now, and then also share a little bit about where we're headed for the rest of this year in year 2 of our one-to-one implementation. So just as a reminder, go the wrong way. I'll use Chuck. So if I push this down, Chuck will move. Or maybe it just needs to be turned. Oh, on. It'd be helpful if it was actually on. Sorry about that. So in April, we did share with you in February and March of this past year, we had our 6th and 10th grade teachers by this past year getting ready and for the year 2 implementation, we were able to start purchasing the iPads and getting them in the hands of the teachers in February, March, and begin the process of providing professional development to those teachers who would be having students arriving into their classrooms, having had a year of using the iPads as 5th graders and 9th graders. So we started working with our teachers much earlier than in year 1's implementation. Also, we started to get information out to parents a lot earlier as well in April, beginning to share with them the information around the handbook and beginning the process of doing the form and communication. In May and June, we actually were able to have all the students in 5th and 9th grade. So if you think about our current 5th and 9th graders when they were 4th and 8th graders last year, we actually went to their classrooms with computer applications at the middle school and in their 4th grade classrooms within their homerooms and had them configure their iPads in preparation for the start of this school year. So by doing that, those of you may recall from last year in the summer, we had 5th grade and 9th grade last year have to go through basically about a 45-minute process in the library to set up and configure their iPads. By doing this past year in May and June, basically that eliminated the need to have kids come to our library and spend 45 minutes in the library to configure their iPads. We had all that done prior to the summer. So a big thank you to our technology department, the teachers, 4th and 8th grade, who were able to do this and embed this within the day so that it reduced the amount of time students would have to spend configuring their iPads when they picked them up in the summer. The students did not take their iPads home. They were kept within the district and then handed out over the summer when parents had filled out the form and came. And this year, again, streamlining the process, our technology staff where they purchased bags and labeled them with the student's names. So when a parent signed up to come and pick up their iPad, had their student name, they provided the check, and then they left. And so it was about a 5-minute process. So we reduced the amount of time due to the fact that we were able to do a lot of prep in advance. We also, because of having the information in advance, we were able to set up our professional development with our teachers in March and May. We had Apple come in as part of our professional development process. They worked with our teachers to expand their knowledge with the existing 5th and 9th, as well as then inviting 6th and 10th teachers in to work with Apple to explore the features of the iPad, as well as look at apps that were approved through this past year through the iPad app committee. And then we continued, as we did last year, with our summer camp for students in June and August for our incoming 5th grade and incoming 9th grade students. We had about close to 90 5th graders this past summer participate, about 25 90 5th graders, I think I mentioned that, and about 25 9th graders participate. So that was great. This gives you just an overview again of all of the things that were happening leading up to the implementation for not only this year, but also continuing to work with our 5th and 9th grade teachers, and then adding in our 6th and 10th grade teachers. So this is year 2 of our implementation. So you see here, I'm just summarizing what we did in May and June, working with June teachers during our June in-service day. We continue to provide professional development as well as add in the 6th and 10th grade teachers. In August, this past start of the school year, in-service time, we worked with teachers again to look at Canvas, as well as just integrating the technology as a one-to-one. That the one-to-one technology is not simply just Canvas. It's also looking at how do we incorporate some of the apps that we have that are integrated within their curriculum. For example, Desmos is a great app that our math teachers at the high school are using and integrating within their instruction. And then we're continuing to provide that in-service over the upcoming in-service days that we'll have in this month, as well as through January, February, and then at the end of June. So this is just a reminder, now that we put the years on. We started year 1 implementation in 16-17. We're continuing in year 2 in 17-18, and we've, as you see, we've added now 6th grade and 10th grade in essence by the students taking their iPads with them and providing the 5th grade and 9th grade existing students this year with it. Next year, as you see right now, where we would be headed would be adding 4th grade. So we're then having the students in 4th and 5th grade using iPads, and then having the students who are currently in 5th grade, they would move to 6th. Kids who are currently in 6th already have their iPads, moving to 7th, and then we're just adding 9th again. So we're continuing to build as we go through our 5-year implementation that we had set actually in January of 2016, talking about the plan and the rollout. This is the same exact slide from then. It's just adding the years on there so you can see the rollout and then the actual school years that would be matched up to that. Just a quick overview. This was shared in April. Just as a reminder, we do have an app committee comprised of teachers and administrators who, as apps are suggested by our instructional staff, will then go through a review process to determine its suitability to our curriculum. So when we look at applications, we're not just looking to see what's the most economical or if it's free and we get it. It's really to look at any application that we do purchase is evaluated for its integration into our curriculum, because any software purchase, as we used to do in the past when we had CDs and we had floppy disks, we would evaluate its integration to our curriculum. The same process here, and the committee reviews those apps that are suggested, and then after they're approved and purchased and distributed out to the iPads, we follow up with a newsletter to inform the teachers of what apps are available to them, and then we integrate those apps into the professional development for teachers so that they're aware of how to effectively use those apps. So a couple of things that we've continued to learn. The distribution process, as I shared earlier, has been streamlined, and again, credit to our technology staff for really finding ways to make it most efficient for not only our students, but families and parents when they're coming in to pick up the iPads. We did find this past year that the technology fee for the iPads was at a higher rate for those picking up their iPads versus the students that took them home over the summer. So one thing that we're looking at instituting is at the end of this year in May, informing parents that they need to pay for the technology fee before the summer, and if they don't, they would have to leave the iPad in the school, and then they could pick it up the next year. Because when students were taking it over the summer, we just found that we didn't have as high of a response rate than those that were coming to actually physically pick up their iPads and could bring the check in. We're also continuing to find, and I know Dr. Souders and Dr. Pierce have seen this now at the middle school with all of grade 6 students being able to utilize the iPads for MAP assessments as well as CDT. So we're finding ways that it's streamlining and making that process much more efficient than in the past of having to check out labs or carts and things to that effect. The students have the ability to do that. And we're continuing to monitor the use of Canvas and the consistency of that within our professional development and our teaching and learning supervisors are working with teachers to ensure that there's consistency across the teachers that are teaching the same course. And as I shared in April, we still have the opportunity for parents, if they do qualify for free and reduced lunch, they are eligible and received a letter informing them of ways that they can have internet access if they don't have it at home to be provided to them through what a compliant internet searching process. So they have a hotspot device that would be provided to them from the district for those that are eligible for free and reduced lunch. What's new this year, we do have IssueTrack for students. IssueTrack is the ticketing system that we typically use for staff, that they're able to put in a concern or a need or a technical need. So in the past, it was simply for staff. Now students can submit a ticket to our technology department. Our technology department at the middle school and the high school, if you were ever to stop by down near the library, the door's open so that students can stop by and touch base with a technician if there is a problem. At the middle school, they're now using the school store area. So if students having any challenge or difficulty with their device, they can bring it by and see a technician to support them and help them. At the elementary level, typically the teacher is sort of the first line of defense and can submit an IssueTrack, but now the students are able to do the same, and our technicians can come to the classroom and support them if they need to. Another aspect, we started this last year of implementing something called the Classroom app. Apple released a classroom management app to allow teachers the ability to see what the students are doing while on their iPads. And so students sort of are enrolled automatically based on our Skyward system, and it's updated. So if a new student comes in, they're automatically added, and a teacher has the ability to then pull up on the screen on their iPad what a student within their classroom is doing or seeing, and they can also turn the iPads, in essence, off or turn it to black so that they can get their students' attention if need be. So there's a little bit of a classroom management opportunity that we have. So that was released last year with some technical challenges, more so from Apple. It was the Apple representative shared, they recognized and had heard from clients about the challenges that schools were faced, and we're improving it and then updated the app itself. And the last thing is we're continuing to explore and experiment and pilot ebooks. We're still working on that process to ensure that we can have, it's a little bit different in a school setting with the management that we have than if you were just to get a book from Overdrive at the library and download it onto your own personal device. It's a little bit different than that, and the licensing from the publishers, we're still working out to make sure that that works. But there are some technical maneuvers that we have to have compared to if you were just to get it, on your Nook or on your iPad or something, or Amazon. So we're working through some of those things with Follett and the Destiny system that they have to still be able to push out ebooks. So we're trying those in various settings so that it will continue to expand through this year. So those are some of the things that we're looking forward to. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes.
I really need to understand this internet Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. So you just said that if a child qualifies for free and reduced lunch, mm-hmm. then the district will point them to where they can get a hotspot.
We provide.
We provide it. Okay. What about that small group of kids that don't qualify for free and reduced lunch, whose parents can't afford internet? If it's one-to-one technology, what are we doing to try to make sure that everybody has what they need to operate these devices?
Well, we don't have, in essence, we had to have criteria as to what would make a family eligible to receive the devices, and right now that's the free and reduced lunch. For families, that still may be a challenge. Some of the things that we're continuing to look at is how do we open up our network after school for students that are able to still stay connected to our network when they're here. So we do have guest access in essence. And the other options is if families are struggling to be able to afford internet, there are low-cost options that are out that are covered by companies like Comcast, and there are some hotspot availability that are low-cost, $10 a month, those types of things. So we would be able to provide and direct families to those. However, at this point, our criteria is the free and reduced lunch eligibility.
Okay, it's not connecting for me. It seems to me that, we have this great program in place. We need to figure out a way that everybody's going to be able to utilize it. Do we even know how many kids how many families aren't able to pay for internet and Wi-Fi that don't qualify for free and reduced lunch? Like, have we done anything to come up with numbers? What are we talking about? Do we even know?
I don't have an exact number. I just know of those families that are eligible, we have about 10 participating, so those that are in free reduced lunch. But I don't know outside of those that are not eligible for free and reduced lunch, how many do not have are able to provide internet access. There are some families that make a choice not to provide internet at home because some families say that that's not something that they want to pay for. And much of in those circumstances, the teachers are very sensitive to if a parent were to make the teacher aware that the student does not have internet access. Most of the activities that students can do, the Word documents and such to that effect, can be done on the iPad without connecting to the internet. It's some of the apps such as Canvas or those types of things that they would work with the teacher to explain that they're not able to complete those activities at home, and then the teacher would work with the student either at the elementary level in core extension or provide paper copies or something to that effect to those students.
Has it been a hurdle? I mean, you described 20 families have asked for it, which is great. But I mean, what Ellen's asking, I guess, is, are you aware of anybody who's, like, the kids being deprived because they don't have internet access?
I have not heard, I have not that I'm aware that it's been,
Yeah.
that typically the guidance counselors are involved or are made aware at the high school and then inform the administration. I'm not aware of any families that have come forward to say that their children are unable to have access to the content.
And I can just tell you, we've only had a very small handful of parents that we've had to make arrangements with to pay kind of over time the fee. So we did have to have a criteria that made it very objective, and because if you let one person do it and then the neighbor sees they got this, but then they also got the big 60-inch flat screen TV that next week because we're providing internet, you have to we had to have something that was objective, black and white. That's like that you pay the fee if you're not on free and reduced lunch, you don't have to pay it if you're on free and reduced lunch. It's just a kind of piece of criteria that we had to use. I don't believe it's that many, just based on what we had appeal to us for kind of paying the $75 over a couple months.
And I'm fine, I understand that. It's just, I know there are families that can't afford it. Now, I think we've covered, we have a plan for those who either don't want to pay for the internet or can't afford to pay for the internet. The teachers accommodate them just like they always have, or they get paper copies, or they're able to do that work in periods during the day. We've accommodated that. We can't make people pay for internet. I understand that. I just needed to know I wanted to understand how that fit. I'm good with that. Thank you.
Can you, I got a question. Sometime this year, in a work session, can you give us a 15-minute wow presentation? I mean, we're spending $1 million a year on these iPads, and it'd be just nice to see, other than how we get them out and how they can take a little tests on them, what they're using them for. right? Give us a sales presentation per se to make the community aware of what we're getting for $1 million a year. Like I said, I mean, I know there's, but I'm sure there are, just, you know, I don't want it tonight, I don't want it next week necessarily, but sometime over the course of this year, it'd be just nice to see what we're getting for all the money we're spending, and we can brag about it a little bit, so.
And if we're going to do that, if I can give you more work, Stephen, each level of education, we've a different program. So I would love it if we could expand that WOW to show us the nuts and bolts on the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level. You figure out how to do it and who you want to utilize, but I would really be interested in seeing that presentation on all 3 levels. Thank you.
Can I chime in with whoa, that's loud. 2 questions. Can you talk a little bit more about Canvas, what it is, who has access? For example, do parents have access, not have access? In what grades is it applicable? And then this may be too broad for you right now, but I feel like I understand a lot about the physical aspects of how the iPads are handed out, and the spacing and the timing and the preparation that goes into it. What I'm less clear on is the communication with the teachers and the information that's on there. So I'm particularly interested in 6th grade as an example. In the elementary school, it seems like there's a lot of parental involvement. 6th grade comes, and then when they get their homework assignments, for example, is there a central place where homework is supposed to be, or are they looking on 3 different systems to figure out what the homework is? If it is 3 different systems, do we have a plan forward? Are we okay with that? Are we not okay? Like, how are these decisions being made, and how can we make it better? Kind of big. You don't need to answer it now, but I would love an answer. I'm just.
Thanks, Chuck.
Because we have Sky where we have Kansas,
Right.
we have teacher pages.
Right.
Maybe other stuff that I don't know about.
So just to go to your first question, Canvas is a learning management system that a committee of teachers reviewed as we were moving forward with the one-to-one to parallel the implementation of the one-to-one. So right now, because part of a learning management system requires, in essence, access to technology versus, either going to a lab or the consistency, we wanted to marry the two in the sense of the one-to-one with Canvas. Then we knew that students would have devices available to them, that they would have, that the teachers would know if using Canvas, that the students had access. Because that's a challenge. If you have a learning management system, as we found with Moodle, teachers were using Moodle, which is a learning management system as well. However, again, are students using that only at home? Do they have access? Do they have a device to be able to use Moodle? And those were things that we learned over time as we were implementing Moodle. So by using Canvas, we started working with teachers to then have content, working with content courses, and we selected content courses that would support the use of Canvas. For example, Algebra 1 in 9th grade. The majority of 9th grade students are either in Algebra 1 or in other course, geometry, those types of courses. So we worked with those teachers to develop content within Canvas. English, for example, another one where all 9th grade students are in English 9. So we looked and targeted our approach to provide in-service opportunities to teachers who were teaching courses where 9th graders would be in. So for last year. And for this year, we expanded that to 10th grade classes and students that were in courses. So it's not in every class at the high school. In 5th grade, we primarily looked at content areas such as science or social studies, and then we set expectations of working through and having teachers post questions and use the comment feature, or excuse me, the posting feature and those types of things, assignments and things that they would start to learn and ease into. So that was last year. And this year, we will continue to roll out those expectations for teachers using in other courses. And then we will begin the process now with 6th grade, as you mentioned. There have been places such as Moodle that teachers may post assignments, or their website that they post assignments. Sometimes they post alerts on Skyward. So we're beginning that transition to really hone in and leverage the Canvas system to have posting of assignments so that they're accessible to the students as well as to parents as we release the parent portal. That has yet to be.
Okay, so right now Canvas can only be accessed from the student's iPad. It can't be accessed from a computer at home, and only the students have logins. Is that right?
Okay, so to answer the first part, it's not only accessible on the iPad, however, having the iPad ensures, in the sense of as we roll it out to those who have iPads, we know that they all have equal access to ensure that they can access Skyward. So we're not, oh, sorry, Canvas, I apologize, and Skyward, but Canvas. And so Canvas can be, for example, if a student were to forget his or her iPad at school and something's posted on Canvas, the student could go onto a laptop or to another computer and any browser, their phone to some extent, if they have the app, and access Canvas. So it's not only on the iPad, but we wanted to ensure equal access to Canvas. So we wanted to make sure that we sort of parallel the implementation of Canvas with the one-to-one. And I don't know the other part of your question. I wanted to make sure I answer.
Students have the login information, not parents.
At this point, students have the login information, and we're releasing to provide parents with information about the Canvas portal for families to then add their children over the next few months to inform parents how to log in on their own and then have access to see their children's classes and the assignments and things to that effect. So if they have multiple children, say in 5th and 6th, or a 5th and 9th grader, they'd be able to put all their children in one account.
And if I have a child in algebra and I want to see if they're doing their work, do I look on Skyward or Canvas? And I don't, but just hypothetically.
Skyward is still the for grading and any grades and assignments. Although grading can occur in Canvas, that's not the source for the final grade, because not every assignment that a student would do would be done through Canvas. There are some assignments that are tailored for Canvas use, but not every assignment or not every assessment will be done in Canvas. Therefore, Canvas will never be the final source for grading. A teacher may have the opportunity later, as we continue to roll out Canvas or utilize Canvas, grade assignments within Canvas that can be linked to Skyward, but the final authority of a child's grade is still Skyward. That's our student information system and our grading and our report card system. Canvas is just a mechanism in which assignments and activities can be incorporated.
I know a little while ago we had talked about parents and students knowing where to go to find missing assignments, like if they're off school for a day, and some teachers were better at having websites and some teachers were better at keeping that up than others. Are you, because Canvas can't be used for all things in a class, are we still anticipating that the teachers will be keeping up their Great Valley web pages, or however that's managed to keep those assignments? Because I know in the past that's been an issue, and I'm just thinking, if I had a kid and we had Canvas and we had regular work and my kid was out for a day, I would not want to have to depend on another kid to tell my kid what they missed. I would want to be able to go someplace and see it.
Right. We're beginning that transition to have Canvas in those courses and in those grade levels where the students have access to it, to that Canvas would be a portal to have any assignment posted. And that's still a transition in professional development for our staff, but to have whether it's a Canvas-related assignment or just an assignment due date and things to that effect, so that parents, when logging into Canvas, will be able to see those assignments posted.
Do we have a thought process on like a timeline for that, so that by a certain date, you're anticipating that all teachers who have access to Canvas will be posting their assignments on that, or is it just kind of open-ended and we're hoping that it
No,
happens?
we're working with the administrative team, and right now our tentative, and I just want to say tentative purposefully, our tentative timeline would be after Thanksgiving, so that we have the opportunity to work with our staff to make sure that they're prepared for and can be able to post assignments within Canvas for those courses that have it. Again, at the high school, it's going to be a little bit different than the other grades.
And do you anticipate then sending out like a Skyward message to families to say, in this course, you'll now be able to find all missing assignments regardless of whether they began in Canvas, so parents know where to look?
We do have a plan to communicate with parents once Canvas is available to them and provide them directions with how to log in, how to associate their account to their children, so that they can then see their children's Canvas activities. and be able to log and see from one login rather than having to log in as their children, so that everything's in one place. So we do have a plan to communicate the process of signing up for the Canvas portal and seeing and associating their children with their account. And then being able to see the assignments that students are being assigned from their teachers.
Gotcha, and the students will also know this, I'm assuming.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we're just gonna juggle one thing around. I'll let GVCO give their presentation so they don't have to sit here all night. Well, you're always welcome to stay.
All right,
Or we can have you go last.
no, I'll go first. Yeah, no, we have some material. These two are some of the most wonderful volunteers in the district, and they meet on a daily basis, and they put a whole bunch of material together for each one of you, so you can take it home and read it after your long meeting.
Yeah, no problem. So just real quick update, Keith and his wonderful volunteers.
Kelly Prevo and Molly Fuhr.
I know Molly, sorry.
And I'm Keith.
Anyways, we invited them tonight to just give a quick update of where this GVCO stands since it's going on the property we sold to you, just to give a community update. So that's why they're here tonight, and just give us an update, so.
Yeah, so why don't you hand that out, Kelly? Thank you. I met with Chuck and Regina not too long ago to just kind of give them an update, and Regina was nice enough to invite us in and come to the meeting tonight, so we took full advantage of that, and would like to just quickly go over where we are, and then Q&A for whatever you'd like to hear. For those who don't know, we are a 501c3. We got that status back in 2005. We're moving into our 17th year in existence. Started out as a youth sports programming, and we leased a facility in 2005. And when that happened, it became very clear that there was a lot of other interested parties in the space that we had, and essentially it's just a warehouse on Backton Hill. Just happens to be right next door to the property that we came to an agreement on. The youth sports is, I tell everybody the same thing. It's kind of easy because the parents in the district want their kids to be involved. It's a fantastic, as you well know, it's a fantastic community. Lots of neighbors, lots of friends get together all the time with all the sporting events that we put on, multiple programs. We just literally will be bringing out this spring a girls' youth lacrosse league. They had their first clinic in September. They worked out a deal with you guys using the turf field, and they had 75 kids come to the clinic, and they marketed it for about 3 weeks. So there's a definite need there. Well, Regina, I sent you an email last spring, the CREW program. It's a third year in existence. Fantastic program. It's a club. It's a club through the high school, right? And it has to be a club to belong to the association they're in through the high school. There was a girls boat that beat most of the schools in the area, and it's only their second year in existence. And it's just it's just great to see kids having an opportunity to do some things that maybe they weren't, your typical kid playing baseball, basketball, football, those kind of things. So we're just really, really pleased to where we headed with all that program. With all that said, we've embarked on this project, and we've been at it for a long, long time. And our goal was simply to bring a indoor-outdoor community facility and space to the area that's multi-generational. Appeals to kids, adults, and older adults, and we just found there's been a great need for that. So we embarked on the decision to move forward with this project, and so we went through a feasibility study. hired a local consultant from Cherry Hill to come and do a feasibility study. That's 3 years ago now. We had someone come in and redo our business plan, had someone come in and help us with our communications plans, and then finally reached out to a regional capital campaign consultant, Schultz & Williams, and they helped us put together our fundraiser, our capital campaign plan. From there, obviously, we partnered with Great Valley School District on a piece of ground on Backton Hill. We've stuck with the same formula as we move through the entire process. We got a local lawyer out of Westchester who's friends of the organization. The engineer is a local fellow. The architect's a local Malvern Arcus Development out of Malvern, and we turned to IMC Construction to be the general contractor on the project. So all very local help, all people who either have kids in the program, been tied with the program, or just great community partners. So we put together a plan, and I think we have a walkthrough. Do you have that on there, Chuck? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to kind of talk. You guys can watch as it goes along. This is the conceptual plan of what the facility will entail. The way this was put together, Arcus had about 20 or 25 individuals that I reached out to in the community in all different kinds of areas to come in and talk about if there was space, what could that space look like, and how would that space be utilized. And he sat down and worked with our business plan that we had put together over the course of the early course of the project, and came up with this concept. From there, we're currently in the middle of designing the space, getting into the details of the space with the architect, having gone through a lot of the engineering. All the engineering hurdles and approval from the township and the county. We're at the very tail end of that. And as you can see, it's a lot more than youth sports space. And we found, even our space that we currently have, that there's been all kinds of needs generated by a 10,000 square foot space warehouse that we envision sort of taking on a life of its own, obviously, with a newer and a space that has multiple paths. Again, it's indoor-outdoor space. It ties in very nicely with the township plans, it's within walking distance of the trail. And in the comprehensive plan of East Whiteland Township, there's a trail that goes right through this property that comes across into the Default Trail, which is right in front of the high school middle school complex. And in their long-term plan, they have that trail space connecting right up to the Chester Valley Trail. And you're probably well aware of all the space, all the trails that are all over the county, and they've been highly successful. We see this facility being part of that. Some of the one of the things we've been doing, from the beginning is looking into, creating partnership, obviously with the school district and the East Whiteland Township being in the ground being in the township, natural partners, but a great partnership we reached out to in the very beginning, who we've done things in the past, is Surrey Services for Seniors. We feel as though there's a great deal of need. I think a certain population of the district is not being serviced as well as they can, and that wasn't us thinking that. That was Surrey coming to us and saying, "Hey, listen, we would like to move west from Devon and partner with you." They literally today they just announced they were awarded the 2017. Senior Center of the Year in Pennsylvania from the PASSC, and that's 130 senior centers. So looking for quality partners like that, And we've reached out to, on the awareness programming side, okay? The Steps for Hope has been a partner of ours for the last 3 or 4 years. Be a part of the conversation, who I know got involved at the high school, didn't they? Yeah, with some programming. Yeah, Steps for Hope too, yeah. Reaching out to some arts programming, educational programming, fitness and training. So all those things we envision happening within the facility, inside and outside the facility, and working hard with collaborating with a number of different partners. Fundraising, the capital campaign, that'll be the last piece. We've done these guys, they meet weekly. We have a long-term plan, long-term goals, and we've done a fantastic job. The community's done a fantastic job of being very generous. We've raised in cash and pledges just under $1.8 million at this point. That sounds like a lot of money, but this building is, probably you're aware, is a lot more money than that, and the facility. So we're at it, and we're at it every single day. And I would say the fundraising has gone beyond what I thought it would at this point. It's taken a long time, but it's steady, and the progress is kind of constant. So we'll be at it and keep at it. So that's a general idea of where we are. Questions? I can answer any of them. If there's not, yeah.
Turning me off, Chuck. Chuck has is the keeper of the microphone. Keith, when do you anticipate reaching your, the end of your quest?
So the toughest part of this was the approval process with the township and the county. I understand that we'll be through that process within the next week with the NPDES. And to get final approval from the township, we need the county to say, okay.
Right.
That's happened. We're supposed to be going, I guess, next week to the Board of Supervisors of East Whiteland Township. And the way ours is preliminary final approval, I think it's called. And then the supervisors will, put their stamp of approval on the November 9th meeting, I guess. And from there, there's a 30 or 45-day period that, the community can reach out and say. So we'll be through all that approval process at that point. And so it's all about fundraising and raising as much in cash and pledges that we get. And we've talked to 3 different local banks about financing, and really we're on the verge of settling on the ground with the district, and then getting started with a shovel.
Well, I just want to say that I've supported you guys from the very beginning. You're a phenomenal organization. I've never seen volunteers like GVCO has on the ground. What you've done has been a testament for many hundreds of kids. You're doing a great job. I appreciate all your hard work. And I'm really excited about this, Keith. I really am. And I urge everybody in this community to support you, because not only does it benefit the kids what you're doing, but our senior citizens, many groups of stakeholders. So I really urge, when you guys do fundraising, you do a phenomenal job, and it's great fun. So as you're doing it, let me know personally, and I'll be happy to garner support for you, because it's something I believe in. So thanks for coming in.
Yep, thank you very much. And the room would be, if we brought all the volunteers, this wouldn't be a big enough room. They're right, you're exactly right. It's a tremendous group of moms and dads from the community, and it's really rewarding to watch it all come together, because that's who's doing it.
Well, I know you've been at it a while, and a lot of you have been at it a while, so congratulations on hopefully getting there.
Thank you.
Because you have filled a lot of needs. Crew is a great example where it's kind of difficult for the school to be able to do that, but, you know, having a community organization that could step up, and you're right, those kids are having a blast and they're doing well, so, and there's numerous other ones that I can't even begin to mention, in addition to your original core of the GVBL that started, what, 20 years ago or so?
Yep.
18 years ago, something like that? So, yeah, well done for you and all your volunteers, so, thank you.
Yeah, you were one of them.
I remember putting together benches over Backton Hill. So,
And I'd just say, no, Jim, I met with Jim just recently. The coordination and the collaboration with the school district, I think that only grows. You know, that's not going to go away. A perfect example, I don't mean to go on, but a perfect example is just this past month, I think this is the 7th year we do this. We have high school interns, Great Valley High School interns. It's all coordinated by Henry McCluskey at the high school. And Mike's good enough to get involved and push the thing along. And we go through the whole interview process and bring them in, and they're juniors in the high school. The other area is Caring Hands Foundation. It's a group of student volunteers. I emailed Dr. Souders, said, Dr. Ed, can I send a couple of the high school kids over and try to find volunteers? And we do all kinds of volunteering for these kids that got to get all these hours with Honor Society, National Honor Society, National Junior Honor Society. And it's just a matter of connecting all these things. And I often tell people it's just because I'm old and I just know who to contact, and then they actually answer my calls. So it really, this is a tremendous partnership, and what you guys have helped us do in the township, what they're helping us do, I think is really, you know, and the volunteers. So thanks, really, thank you very much.
all right. Enrollment projections. I don't see how much more room you need in that community center.
This is something we were going to do last week at the Finance Committee, but when you decided to cancel it, we just kind of plopped everything into tonight. So this is the board's first look at the enrollment projections. We already did this with the Community Advisory Committee last month. Try and go over this as quickly as I can. You saw our third day enrollment, 4,145 students. It's our highest since 76, 77 school year. Our birth data, the kids are aging in this picture. So they're starting to come to school. If you recall the last picture of Linda's grandkids, this is.
No wonder she thought they were cute. So
Yeah, they're pretty darn cute. But anyway, this is what our projected enrollments now look like for next year. We're looking at just a slight increase, but you can see it starts to trend upward. The concern is we'll have to continue to monitor this, as we had a pretty big influx in one development this year. If that continues, that enrollment could spike a little bit higher. I'm not talking about to 6,000 in 3 years or anything like that, but you could very easily get to well over 4,500.
I might be stealing your thunder, but how many have we had since the third day?
Oh, well, we have 4145 on the third day. We got 37 more since then, so
That's what I thought.
we're at 4182. I think that's in your packet there. High school enrollment actually went down a little this year. It was really our only school that went down, just a tad, not much, but they're projected to start going back up. We have a pretty large 8th grade class now, and their senior class is not as big as the 8th grade class coming in. Middle school, this is an all-time high for the middle school, 1,000. We broke 1,001 for them. They're projected to go up. They're actually going to lose a big 8th grade class, and the 5th grade class coming in is not quite as big, so that's why they're not getting a really big spike there in next year. Elementary, we had 146 more kids this year than last year, which was big. Now we're projected to be about the same next year. Now that's all depending on some of the construction and move-ins. And you can see we have kind of a stagnant then at around 1,900. So then we broke this down by school for the Community Advisory Committee. Each elementary school, we did an enrollment projection. So Charlestown has 331 students. They're actually projected to go up. They will pretty much exceed their capacity in 2020, 21. I'm not saying we can't, that they'll be standing outside looking in the windows trying to learn. But just maybe a little more crowded there.
Now we're gonna have 50 Charlestown parents next week.
I think that's the year after my expiration date. So. Markley actually had a pretty big increase this year. Next year, using our cohort survival method, has them going up a little bit. You can see they're gonna exceed their capacity probably in the same year as Charlestown.
And just to be clear, this is without looking at any redistricting?
Right. This one has no redistricting in it. We're going to talk about that in a second.
We've had 800 in there before.
730.
No, we've had 800 before.
At Markley?
Yeah, with the trailers and, yeah.
No, 730, that was our biggest, with the new Markley. Now, with the old Markley, we had 1,600 here, so just saying, I was here. Horse-drawn wagons to school. This building was a little bit bigger. Yeah. This was the gym.
Somebody's got to stop.
General Wayne, actually, the enrollment would trend downwards. It went up this year, but it would trend down based on their current numbers. Now, this is, again, not putting any new numbers in there. And Sugartown is about stagnating based on the current numbers. This year, this is what we projected versus what we actually had. So we were under projected by, our accuracy was only close to 96% this year. Normally we were in the 99 point something range. I will tell you, ironically, the only grade level that we were almost perfect on was kindergarten at Katie Markley, which you would think that would be the one school we would be not off in everything. So the high school was actually over what they projected. They were projected to be even less students. But you can see the big increases were at the middle school and at Markley. 33 more kids than we projected at the middle school, and 45 more than, or 45 more than we projected at Markley. Just some fun facts. This is our largest enrollment since 1976-77, where we had 4,188 students. That was before my time, so. I was entering my sophomore year of college. Can't remember very much, but it was. Largest enrollment in elementary school K-5 since 73-74. Now, know that in 73-74, elementaries were K-6. So, largest middle school enrollment since it was a middle school, and it turned into a middle school in 82-83. Before that, it was just a 7-8 building when it was General Wayne. Here again, 37 additional students since the third day. We've almost increased 1% in 1 month. This is the largest kindergarten enrollment since 2009-10. So we've had larger kindergarten enrollments pretty recently. The 266 we had here. And the 8th grade class is the largest class we have on the books, so to speak, on that big grid sheet, if you've ever seen, remember the one I show you, since the senior class of 78-79. And just noting that the current 8th grade class is the 2009-10 kindergarten class. That's what that little note fun fact was. So the 2009-10 largest kindergarten is now our largest 8th grade. These were our actual fall class sizes. You see we were within the guidelines everywhere except Charlestown Kindergarten had 1 over. We were at the capacity at General Wayne. not unusual. We've started years out like this, and as most of you will recall, worse off in a lot of cases. This was actually very good compared to prior years. For next year, if everything stays the same and we don't realign the boundaries, this is what they would look like. You would end up, Markley would end up with 6 first grades, and we'd have Sugartown and General Wayne's 5th grade would have a couple classes at capacity based on the projections. So just for your information, here's our non-public enrollment for the past 10 years. Went down a little this year, have no idea why, just a fact. Charter school enrollment went up a little this year. Now this is, when I say up a little, I mean up a little, 4 kids. I mean, that could be a family moving in or whatever. So we still are down from the big trend we had, and even the big trend is not near what most schools have in our area. So that's it, quickly. Questions?
Yes. What does this do to our secondary school class sizes?
Nothing. Stay within the class size guidelines. We're
Thank
fine.
you.
We're just adhering to those class size guidelines now. So this will do nothing to it.
Okay, I'm good.
Can you,
High school is built for almost 1,500 kids. The middle school is built for 1,200 kids. So we're well within capacities there. Elementary schools, something we'll talk about next month after we talk with the CAC. As you close in on a projection of about 2,023 elementary kids, which we don't have. If you remember the numbers, it was 19. As you go over the 2,000 mark, that should trigger to somebody here, whoever the facilities guy or business manager is at the time, that you need to recommend to the board a study to be done to, like, what do we do if the project, so.
can you briefly talk about what an impact fee is and why we're not allowed to get one?
Well, I mean, for years, we've talked about impact fees. I even think.
And the background is a lot of people have said, hey, there's tons of development coming. Is there a way to help them?
Now, many years ago, and this is even before, it was probably when Charlestown Hunt was being built, before Malvern Hunt was being built, the board talked about, and we talked in basically the state about the fact that there are no impact fees. An impact fee would be a fee associated with every new owner-occupied residential dwelling that would be paid to a school or to a county or to a township to be held in escrow for sometime down the road when you may or may not have to add to your infrastructure because of that enrollment increase. So for example, the 1,200 unit Atwater development, I'll just use that as an example. If there was a $1,000 impact fee, which isn't uncommon in other states, you'd take that $1,000 times 1,200, and so you'd have $1.2 million that would be in a fund that would offset some of the construction costs for a new facility, a new addition, whatever kind of infrastructure you need. You kind of accumulate that. Now, you would have that and every other little development, every time you build a house. Even the little 4 houses that are in the old gable florist there in Malvern, they would have paid $1,000 each if that was the impact fee. In Pennsylvania, there are no impact fees like that. There are impact fees for townships, for road construction and things like that, where they put money into an escrow. They can only use it to increase the infrastructure of the roadways as needed. But schools, we're stuck just socking it to the taxpayers that are here at the time you need it, instead of the people that are building the houses and the contractors and construction.
So districts can pass resolutions, but there's absolutely no way of getting any money
No,
from
you
an
can't
impact fee?
do it, no, yeah.
Okay.
It's like our transfer tax is stuck at 0.5%, that's by the state. If we could have increased that, that'd be great, but then, again, I think Mr. Barrett pointed out, we were talking earlier, and then you'd get everyone mad to try and sell their house because you have to pay that. It's, if transfer tax right now is 2%, it's a half to the state, half to the county, half to the township, half to the school district. So, if you went to 3%, it would be 3/4, whatever.
Chuck, can we just go back, because I am getting contacted that due to our enrollment having gone up, that we are not able to keep within our suggested secondary guidelines. So I just want to make sure that we're really clear that that is not the case.
Has nothing to do with it. We're actually, you're down from last year's enrollment at the high school. So if that's where the complaints are coming from, there's actually 11 less kids at the high school this year than there were last year. It's just that, as you know, in our scheduling program, what needs to happen to efficiently grant the students as many courses as they possibly could have in the order they want them, but remembering the fact that we do have fiscal constraints. Right. So just like at a college, if 1,000 kids want some class and it's limited to 3 sections of 300, well, 100 kids aren't going to get it. They'll have to wait till their next year, or maybe it's whatever. So we have some limits on things like that. We have class size guidelines, which are just purely that, guidelines. So, I mean, it isn't unusual over the years. I mean, maybe this year's highlighted because we had 1 or 2 that were over 30, but we've had many times in the past years where they've been over that at the high school. Even at the middle school where the guidelines are like 28 is the top. That's not unusual to go to 28. And some of the special areas can go even higher, just because of the nature of the delivery of the instruction for that versus, an AP chemistry dealing with stuff. I don't know, so.
And I do have to say, the middle school and high school administration, I want to make sure we note that they are monitoring all those classes, reporting to us the levels of the classes, and making sure, as per policy, if additional support is needed, what that looks like.
But that's our policy every day of the week, whether we have 100 extra kids or not. I mean, our administrators are continuously doing that. So basically, this is just business as usual. Nothing has changed in those, in our secondary buildings based on these numbers that would put us in a situation where we are not going to be able to deliver like we always do. Absolutely not. Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to monthly enrollment reports there. I think we covered that well enough in the presentation, hopefully. There's no questions. So moving on to policy, and a policy committee report.
Great. We met on October 3rd in the morning at 7:30. I will briefly run through the changes that were made. It's in a memo. Is it helpful to you guys if I read through them, just so everybody's aware of them, or would you prefer that I not and just, there's...
Personally, I think it's always helpful when you read through them. You can synopsize, that's always a good thing.
Okay, well, we'll go quick. Policy 627, district-initiated real estate tax assessment appeals. And Chuck, feel free to chime in when I'm done with this little paragraph. A change was made giving the Director of Business Affairs the ability to authorize the district's attorney or attorneys to file a district-initiated real estate tax appeal prior to receiving formal board approval in order to comply with a filing or other legal deadline. Any such filed appeals shall be presented to the board for ratification at the next business meeting of the board. Anything to add, or?
No, if you recall last month, in August, we had you ratify some things. Now, this year, what happened was we actually had you in June approve a resolution that authorized the superintendent and I to pay bills and enter contracts and things like that, which covered this at the recommendation of the attorney to kind of clean up this and to get more compliant. We were already compliant with the new decision from Valley Forge case in Upper Merion, but this kind of locks the door on it, so to speak. If there's no board meeting, something happens in July and there's no board meeting and our filing deadline for an assessment appeal is August 1st, you don't want to give up the potential of several $100,000 in potential revenue to be recovered from someone who's underpaying their taxes or underassessed. So this is that, and the board would then ratify afterwards. And the board always has the option to say no when we bring it, and then we withdraw the appeal. But we are on an appeal filing deadline of August 1st.
Policies 404 and 504. And just as a reminder of the way these policies work, 300 policies are the administrative level, 400 policies are at the teacher level, 500 level policies are the support staff. So a lot of these are in parallel. In the third paragraph of the authority section of policy 404, the word should will be replaced with shall. And if memory serves me correct, that's saying that board members shall abstain from voting on business related to family members versus should. So it's very clear, if you have a family member, you cannot vote on their business. In the first paragraph under delegation of responsibility, the sentence shall end after the word candidates. And number 2 under the same heading will be stricken as it doesn't apply to our hiring procedure. A lot of these we just tried to tighten the language, make it less ambiguous, and get rid of anything we don't need in there. Policy 305, employment of substitutes for administrative employees, again, 300 level policy. It was recommended by our legal counsel to repeal policy 305 as subs are not used for administrative employees. Policy 405 and 505, employment of substitutes for administrative employees. These policies need no revision as they are drawn from school code and the law. And obviously, if those were to change, the policies will change. Policy 306, employment of summer school staff for administrative employees. This policy was recommended for repeal. Policy 406 and 506, employment of summer school staff for professional and classified employees. No changes are recommended for these policies. Policies 308, 408, 508, employment contract for administrative, professional, and classified employees. The language for these policies is taken from the school code, so no changes are recommended. And again, changes will be made if school code changes. 309, 409, 509, assignment and transfer for administrative, professional, and classified employees, and the administrative guidelines. In the administrative guideline of policy 409, the fourth paragraph, the sentence will end with the earliest practical date. And this is to say that professional staff members shall be informed of their assignments at the earliest practical date. There may be times when, unfortunately, it's really close to the beginning of the school year, or potentially even after. So we just want to leave it open that it's in our interest to notify people as quickly as possible, but the date may vary. And then also under 309, the third paragraph, the sentence will end as soon as possible. So administrative staff members shall be informed of their assignments as soon as possible. Lastly, before I turn it over to the superintendent, policies 310 and 410, abolishing a position for administrative and professional employees. In both policies, under the authority section, the word special will be stricken. Text will say the economic impact and the needs of students in the community instead of the special needs of students in the community. And that was just because there's some confusion. Are we talking about special ed? Are we talking about regular ed? And it's the needs of the students and the community, whatever they may be. We met for less than an hour, and the next meeting of the policy committee is scheduled for Tuesday, November 9th at 7:30 a.m. at district office. I'd like to ask Dr. Speaker Polovinsky to talk about late-breaking policy change on food allergies, and also to just expand upon a letter that all parents received regarding the attendance policies. And if you have anything else, any other board member, feel free to chime in after she's done.
Thank you, Steph. We are preparing to send, in the spring of last year, we discussed food in the classrooms, and we discussed the allergy policy, the wellness policy. And in light of the change in our, actually, and it's not only a change in Great Valley, it's a change across many schools with children and allergies. In speaking with other superintendents across the county, and most notably in speaking with the Tredyffrin Easttown administration, the food allergy, not only the widespread food allergies, but the significance of the food allergy reactions, having outside food in classrooms continues to present an incredible threat to our students. So last year, if you remember, we talked about minimizing outside food into classrooms for parties, Halloween parties, cultural parties, birthday parties, and we limited that. Most recently, the ability to limit that to keep our children safe has become much more difficult. So we wanted to get the information out quickly as Halloween is coming, and that tends to be a very large potential problem in outside food coming into the classrooms. So the district office will be sending notifications to all parents and guardians that will limit outside food. Two things to make clear. This would deal with food brought in from the outside during the school day, such as parties for classrooms for celebrations such as Halloween, Valentine's Day, and birthdays. There will be additional or alternate ways for classrooms to continue to celebrate, however, not with outside food brought into the classrooms. This does not impact the individual food that is brought in for students for snacks. So individual snacks for consumption by students during the school day, during snack time, is not impacted by this change. This will be sent home notifying parents. If anyone has any questions or needs to follow up with additional information, they should do so through their building principal.
So just to be super clear, for the 4 classroom parties that happen at the elementary school level, traditionally, students are allowed to bring in food from home, but they may not share it with anybody else.
Yes. And that's not only true for parties, but daily snacks as well.
And is this affecting just elementary or all levels right now?
At this point, we're talking about outside food brought into the schools at all levels, and the administration will communicate clearly with parents if they have additional questions. We wanted to make sure it was clearly communicated, especially to the elementary parents, because of the upcoming Halloween parties.
And there was a situation in a neighboring school district where a child got very, very ill and worse things could have happened. And that's part of what's prompting this, is because we're trying to avoid having a child be hurt.
Absolutely. And the many alternatives were discussed, and the administration has been working with our own food service providers. This has been discussed with PTO leadership as well as other parent groups to talk about alternatives. And quite honestly, with the very large umbrella of allergens related to food, it is virtually impossible to make sure we're keeping all children safe.
And roughly, what is the rate of kids with food allergies?
Right now, and this will be communicated in a letter going home, 1 in 13 children today have at least one food allergy, and more than 15% of school-age children with food allergies have had an allergic reaction in school. And that information came from the Food Allergy Research and Education reports. So that information will be provided in the information going home, as well as ongoing communication will happen. And if anyone has any additional questions, we're always available to discuss further.
So we're not trying to kill fun, we're just trying to keep our kids alive.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Regina, just a question. So you've talked to our PTO leadership on the elementary level?
Yes, this has actually been going on for approximately 1.5 years. We've had conversations about this issue, and we've tried to find intermediary steps to lessen the change, lessen the impact of the change. And there is just, due to the, again, the widespread allergens, there's really limited alternatives to keeping all of our children safe.
Are they on board?
I believe just as many changes, there's a difficulty. I think what really, as I believe Mrs. Gunderson said very clearly, I believe there's a hesitancy to not allow outside food until you weigh it against keeping children safe, and then it becomes really a non-debate. So I know it will be a change, and many of the parents that I've spoken to have shared their fear of how are we going to make sure we continue to have our parties, our classroom parties, fun without food. And some suggestions have been about having crafts and having games and encouraging children to bring their own daily snacks, their own snacks, as long as they keep them for individual consumption.
I know that change is always difficult, especially on the elementary level. But I believe that to do this policy is really in keeping with our mission, which is doing what's in the best interest of children. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you.
And does it affect food that's brought in outside of the school day for perhaps sports or things like that?
No,
That are still school activities but not happening during the school day?
no. This is absolutely confined to during the school day. The second letter that was sent home as it relates to policy deals with the attendance policy, and an attendance letter was sent home. All of the highlighted information regarding attendance and the changes in the school district's policy are due to changes in Pennsylvania law that were recently impacted. And if there are additional questions, this deals with policy 204 on attendance. And most of the changes deal with making sure all absences are reported in writing, either a written note or email. Again, a phone call is acceptable, but it must be followed up with a written note. If a child is absent more than 10 times due to illness during the school year, during the school year, they must then secure a doctor's note that is required. And a doctor's note will be required to excuse any absences after 10 school days. There's additional information within the attendance policy and the administrative guidelines that accompany that policy. But if you have any additional questions or need clarification, please contact the school building administration, and they'll be able to clarify that. We are continuing to work with this policy as there are some changes, and many of the nuances deal with isolated situations.
For parents that want to email saying that their children are not going to be in school that day, I know most buildings have an attendance secretary, but if that attendance secretary is not going to be in that day, will someone else either have access to that email, or will there be emails set up for each building for those types of emails to be received?
Yes, and the email will be counted as the record for that child. So the email will be printed out and that note will count to excuse the absence, yes, and it will be, yes. And on each of the building websites, there is an attendance email that would be accessible for each building.
All right, so in summary, there's the second reading and the policies for repeal to be voted on next week. And first reading policies are there for review for next month. Any other questions on policies? All right, moving on to facilities, maintenance and technology review.
Mr. Abraham and Mr. Bowers will make this very quick.
Because Chuck's not involved.
Going to give you a quick summary of our capital projects. It's mainly just the large and the high priority capital projects for 17, 18, and 18 and 19 beyond. So as you can see, moving on here, 17, 18, we were just budgeted under $1 million for capital projects. So far to date, we've spent a little over 1/3 of that, and we still have $567,000 remaining dollars in that, but we are still doing ongoing projects. Completed projects as of July till now. Parking lot sealing and striping in various schools. We're on a 4-year rotation. This was year 3. Next year we have Charlestown to do, and so then we'll be starting all over our 4-year rotation. Carpet replacement, we did that at those various schools. Sidewalk repair. This is a major problem, what we have. If any of you have been to the middle school lately, and you go into the front entrance, the pat jobs that we're doing, it's just embarrassing. We really need to be replacing a lot of the sidewalks. Fencing repairs, the hot water replacement that we did at KD Markley, and the gym floor replacement, which you all know about, at Charlestown. So that is what we have completed so far. Projects in progress right now, the security installation and upgrades, and I want to just take a minute with this. We've allocated so much money per school to add cameras every year. At our high school and middle school, we have over 65 analog cameras, and they are failing left and right, and we need to replace them. So we decided for this year, possibly next year, we're going to be replacing all the analog cameras at the high school and middle school, and then we'll continue on to add cameras at all of the other schools. Burner upgrades at the middle school, General Wayne. That's new, Riello. The new hot water burn, or not the hot water, your heaters have dual gas and oil burners on them now. So we have backup, so that's what that is. Boardroom renovations, the screen, the microphones. We're also looking into some chairs rather than having mixed match. And the exterior door replacement here at the district office. Project still to be completed for this school year is the chiller pumps at Sugartown, the HVA system, equipment and controls upgrades, that's with JCI, but that's, every year. The chimney repair here at the district office, we need to repoint it and put a stack through it. And power supplies for the security cameras. They are the PoE switches. That's the power that controls your cameras so you could add more cameras to it. So that's what we have going on, the larger and the high priority projects for this year. Now, a look at 1819. And yes.
Can we
Any
stop there?
questions? Yes.
One question before we get to 1819. You mentioned that part of our boardroom renovation is we're going to standardize the chairs.
We're looking into pricing that.
Okay, we don't really have many people that sit in our chairs. And, I mean, honestly, in the world that I live in, which is up here, I would say, let's not spend any money on the chairs. I think those are things that, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding. Nobody's sitting in them. Just an observation is all.
Duly noted. Okay, a look at 1819. As I believe I reported before, the fire alarm system at General Wayne, it's really in dire need. We are looking into that. It's more money than what we expected because it completely needs rewire. Therefore, we have to get into prevailing wage. So that's going to be some more money. Very high priority is the second and final half of the roofing replacement at the high school. We really need to get on that and get that done this next summer. That's got Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids. Tennis court refurbishing. We've been promising the tennis court people or the tennis coaches for years, and we're just putting Band-Aids on that also. Mechanical upgrades. I mentioned this last year. This has to do with the middle school in KD Markley with all the classroom heat pumps that are going to be obsolete because they're going to discontinue the R22 refrigerant. So we deferred that, and we really need to start thinking about, getting started on that. That's going to be a 4-year job. And the district office in this 58 wing, I believe, needs a new system.
Jim?
Yes.
When I look on the budget, mechanical upgrades for Katie Markley in the middle school are in the way long-term.
Now, that's the 250,000 per year, middle school and Katie Markley?
Is it listed only under the, like, where is it then? Mechanical upgrades has nothing on here. There's heat pump replacement and chiller replacement, but
Yeah.
under mechanical upgrades,
Well, that's just what we're calling that.
well, no, because under mechanical upgrades, there's 1.750 million listed in the out years. So that's why I'm trying to understand if the mechanical upgrades you're talking about are the heat pumps and the chillers, or if it's part of the
I'm talking about
1.75 million.
No, I'm talking about the heat pumps,
Okay.
yes, the 4-year project. Sorry for the confusion there.
All right, so then staying on that same point, is the entire upgrade going to be the $1.7 million? Or is the upgrade, the replacements, just a piece of that?
Can I just kind of get us focused here? Jim is just saying what we had on the list last year for 18-19. So we did the 17-18, and this is what we projected for 18-19 in 16-17. So he's going over a list here, and I see
but-
where he has it. It's okay, but I don't want to get into that minutia at this point. This was just to be an overview of what we did, what our initial plans were for 18-19. You're going to see another slide with a bunch of other 18-19 things that we have to consider that we are all going to bring back to you in February when we do the big meeting and do that. So, tonight's not the night to get into, this or that. The heat pumps and stuff are on there. They're on the plan for 18-19, both of them. Jim's saying they're important. The roof is very important. That's going to be 3 million something. Quite frankly, once you get past those two things and the tech stuff, we don't have any money left for 18-19. So we can talk about all the other stuff we want.
Right.
But I'd rather just kind of focus on, these are the things that are in our kind of job jar that we need to get to eventually.
Okay, I hear you. And with all due respect, we have a facilities committee that both Jen and I sit on. We are putting together what we're talking about tonight that has not been in keeping with our facilities committee protocol. Our chairman of our facilities committee has questions of the person making the presentation. What he's presenting should all be tied in, and when it isn't,
But this is exactly the same as we presented to you last February. Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
We have not changed that.
Chuck, when he talked about mechanical upgrades that were, he just used a vocabulary that he did not use in the report. So I was trying to find out if there was $250,000 worth of expenses that weren't accounted for on the report, or if he was talking about a different report line item, and it turns out he was talking about a different report line item. That's all I'm trying to clear up.
Okay, I just trying to get us through the meeting without being here at 10.
unfortunately, if we're here at 10, we're here at 10, but I've brought this up before that things need to be correct, because when they're not correct, that's our job, is to question them. So it would make our meetings go a lot smoother if we didn't have to do this, because everything did work out and everything was correct.
Okay. So moving on, we have the hot water heater replacement at the high school, the parking lot repair district-wide, which is always ongoing, the sidewalk replacement, like I mentioned, we need to do a lot more of that throughout the other schools, that's district-wide. Maintenance vehicle replacement, that's for the warehouse box truck. And the water main replacement at the high school, and also the emergency generator at the bus garage. Now, moving on to still in 18-19 and beyond, we still have the emergency power for IT equipment. That's district-wide. That's our tech closets that do not have power on the emergency generator. It's about half of them. So we really need to look into that and get circuits up there for the generator. Building renovations up at the high school stadium, press box, the old concession stand on the visitor side, and just came to my attention in the past week or two that the high school pole lights are now obsolete. You can no longer get the bulbs. They don't make the fixture anymore. We're scurrying around trying to buy as many bulbs as we can now through whatever area that we can get them. But now we're going to have to look into replacing them with, probably LEDs. Brickwork throughout the district. That's mainly at the middle school, Katie Markley, and here at the district office. Roofing replacement, Sugartown, Katie Markley, they're coming to the end of their life cycle. The track and turf field replacement, the middle school and the high school, both tracks, both turf fields in a couple years. We are patching them currently, and they are going to be needing completely replaced soon. You were,
How old are those now?
yes, go
How
ahead.
old are the turfs now?
Excuse me?
How old are the turf fields now? 8 years, 9 years?
Yeah. Huh? 9 years? 8?
What
Yeah,
was the- what was it?
15 years, yeah, I know,
15 years?
10 year.
I heard it's an
So I'm just
impact.
saying they're coming to their end, we're already cutting out areas where.
No, I understand that. There's
you
also
know,
an impact issue,
The
right?
track, yes,
At the high school,
Correct.
on the high school.
track. We're repairing
Oh, we
that.
did them all at once, right? The high school track and the turf?
But it would, if you're going to do the
Yeah.
field, you might as well, probably do the track at the same time. Best case scenario.
We've already resurfaced the track once,
Yeah,
since it's been put in. I can tell you the track was probably put in 2002, only because it's about a year after my son graduated. And the turf was probably about 6 years later, maybe 7 years later.
okay, at General Wayne in Sugartown, looking into gym air conditioning, or at least doing an exhaust fan for the Sugartown gym. Audio sound system replacement at the high school gymnasium. It's on its last leg, and that really needs, to be updated. And then more mechanical upgrades, which we have for the next 4 years. Security upgrades, that's always ongoing with your cameras and the front lobbies. And the sidewalk replacement, that will be continued for a while. The softball field, the infield has very poor drainage. We need to redo that softball infield and for dugouts up at the high school.
If I could,
Yes.
Mr. Abraham, I just want to draw attention to the fact, because I want to thank you and your team in meeting with a group of parents, in dealing with the air conditioning and/or exhaust fans. Jim did a great job in getting prices and quotes and trying to go from, get quotes and proposals from least extensive to most extensive in dealing with, especially the General Wayne gym. And then if we did it for General Wayne, or Sugartown, I'm sorry, and then if so, what would we have to do for General Wayne? So as we go, those quotes will be provided to the board to make a decision. So I know those parents, the parents that had met with you and your team were very excited to hear. And we are in the process, but as everyone can see, there are many more items that need to be done within the confines of budgeting and financial constraints. So we'll continue to explore those.
My understanding of this issue is that it's not just to make it more comfortable for everybody, but in some student situations, it's a safety issue where we need to keep the temperature lower than it currently is, potentially.
Yes, and we are definitely, that immediate need is being taken care of for, as is required and the right thing to do. So that, and I have to thank the folks, the administration and Jim's team for making sure that the immediate need was made, but then looking at a larger term plan as well.
Thank you.
I have a question. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've had a lot of discussions around these softball dugouts. Correct me where I'm wrong. I was under the impression over those years that there wasn't room for dugouts. Whereas all of a sudden now we're building dugouts.
I-
We are
Where am I
looking,
missing the?
we're looking into it.
We'll bring that back in February, that, as Regina said, we had 2 sets of parents, one about softball dugouts and one about the Sugartown and air conditioning the Sugartown gym. Both of those, while the softball dugouts, you're correct, on the home side, there's plenty of room. On the visitor side, there's
Visitor side.
absolutely no room. I
Right.
mean, there's some grading and earth moving that would have to be done
Retaining
to
wall.
do that both sides. So, you know, and there's some impervious surface issues that we've confirmed with the township that, you know, I'm not sure. I mean, I've been to those kind of meetings before, and as you heard Keith talk about, and a thing they want done takes forever over there. So our goal is to kind of give you this as a first blush tonight. We will come back with those numbers, and they'll fall out where they may in the plan. I will tell you, as I told the history of this, when we renovated the buildings, we purposely did not air condition the gym at Sugartown or the gyms at General Wayne, because they have other large group areas that are air conditioned. Sugartown has the cafeteria, which was their gym before we added that gym, and General Wayne has the auditorium. You know, that being said, yeah, you can't fit them all in there, you gotta do this, well, you know, so that's just neither here nor there. It's just, I'm just telling you, we were trying to cut
Well,
some costs down.
the back gym at the high school is not air
It's not air conditioned either.
Right, yeah.
I mean, the only gyms we have air conditioned are large gyms. I mean, General Wayne is the only, or, yeah, General Wayne. What's the middle school, Great Valley Middle School, I was gonna call it General Wayne Middle School. Great Valley Middle School gym is air conditioned. It's they're really their large group room. I mean, they put everybody in there. We purposely air conditioned the front gym at the high school in the renovations because it was a place where the entire student body could go, because the whole student body can't get in the auditorium there. Over here at Markley, it's one big thing. So, you know, I mean, that's. Charlestown's very similar too.
So I have a question, Dave, maybe for you and Phil. So last year we spoke about, because we really don't have a plan for supplementing our capital reserve fund. And last year we had spoken, and it was decided that this year we were going to have to spend some time to sit down and figure out how we wanted to do that going forward. So the admin now has done a great job, Jim. I mean, I can't imagine what isn't on here. You know, they have their finger on the pulse of what needs to be done over the next several years. But I'm really unclear as to how we're going to fund this, because we've never had that dialogue. So isn't that something that we should be doing now? Figuring out how money's going to be getting into that fund and what our plan is going forward?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, that's got to be part of our whole budget process. And I think also, you know, not just looking at next year, but what's our overall, you know, 3 to 5 year plan, right? Not just for the operational budget, but also the capital budget, right? We've got to start intertwining those two. You're right, because it's dwindling and we've got a lot of expenses coming.
And I know it
One of
brought,
the things we have is some of the debt's coming off, right? So that's going to allow us some money. And we've been putting whatever the savings was from the Johnson Control contract, things like that back in. So, yeah, we've got to have a holistic plan, not just piecemeal it 1 month at a time, so.
I mean, as part of the discussions we're going to be having as a board, in particular with regard to the amount of money that we're going to be, I guess, recapturing as it relates to debt service. That's a significant amount of money, and I think that's, I mean, we're going to have a pretty robust discussion about where that money needs to be spent. And I think, you know, just from my perspective and looking at the finances in this it's a pretty robust list up there. I can't imagine how we're not going to drive a significant portion of that back into the capital reserve budget. I mean, I don't see any other way that we'd be able to pay for it, short of raising taxes significantly, but it's a lot of money. I think that's part of the planning we've been doing for the past, 5, 6, 8 years now. Yeah, since I've joined the board years ago, is the fact that we're trying to structure everything in a way that when we get to, the various cliffs that were always, presented to us over the years when apparently we weren't going to have enough money or we had significant expenditures, that we would have the ability to pay for it. And I think we will be doing that as we're having a discussion about the budget. I know Chuck has some just early phase slides with regard to that, but I mean, it's what Chuck is about, $4 or $5 million, I think is what we're coming off of debt service this year, so.
Yeah, we have, we're going to roll off 4.2 million in debt for next year. So we would have, if you did nothing and just wanted to do nothing, you could just take 4.2 million off your budget. It would be an absolutely fiscally irresponsible thing to do, I think, personally. I can say it that way because my expiration date's close. So, our proposal from our end would be to fund about 3 million of that back into the capital reserve fund. My God, we're going to need every dime of that just to pay for the roof at the high school. And if you look at the plan that we have on there, even doing that next year, you're still going to only end up with that fund only having about 600,000 left. And that would be barely doing the roof and the mechanical stuff that Jim was talking about, possibly keeping the 1.2 million in the general fund, but having the one-to-one technology budgeted now in the general fund so that it kind of becomes fixed for you guys and future boards. Like you have a line item in the general fund, so it's not kind of tempting for a board to say, we're going to cut that. You'd have to consciously then, the board would consciously have to cut that and would basically kill the one-to-one technology program. So we need to have more discussion on that, and we would plan to have that, at the finance committee meeting.
I mean, for several years, you've said, I forget the exact numbers, middle school's at 20 years.
Middle schools,
Barclays at this, and the high schools, I forget what the years are, but.
we opened
that
up this year was the
basically-
18th year the middle school's been open.
Yeah. And that we were getting to the point where, we, fortunately, knock on wood, we haven't had to do a lot. And we're just at a point now where we're just gonna have to do some things. It's not because they're broken, it's just we gotta do it before the roof leaks or the furnace breaks or whatever, so.
And I know this is in the next slide, and I know I've been bringing this up for a couple of years now, that we can't, Chuck has put in for the sources and uses under the 10-year plan, we will go negative before we hit out that far by $1 million, by over $1 million. Just assuming that we put 3 million of the 4.2 million excess back into capital, because we really haven't been putting anything into capital for a number of years, which I know I keep saying every year that we really need to look at capital, and this year we have to look at capital. So, and it has to be, I think, a more well thought out plan than just, hey, we're gonna just move some debt services stuff over. So I just wanna bring that up again, that as the head of facilities, again, for, I think this is maybe the 3rd year in a row, I've said we really have to look at the long-term capital funding, because we have not been putting any kind of resources into that.
Duly noted, we've heard you say that before.
I agree, and that's exactly what we've got to make sure we do, is that by the end of the budget cycle, that we have a sound, long-term plan in place for our capital fund and also our projected operating budget.
Yeah, because I really don't think that it's a good plan to say, well, in the next 5 years, we're going to go over $1 million to the negative, and we're just going to hope nothing breaks. I mean, I
Right.
just don't think that that's
Yep.
responsible in any way,
Yeah,
shape, or
that's the
form.
challenge Mr. Abrams going to have on finding what we really need to do and some things we may put off a little bit. Like I said, next year alone, 3 million is going to get almost all of our money on that extra money, so, just for a roof, so. All right,
All right, well, that,
And I think also, just before we move on, just with regard to capital planning, I think, Dave kind of touched on this, and we have embraced this as a board in the past, which essentially is to really stress the fact that, I understand certain things are going to be on a wish list, but there's certain things that are mission critical, you know, kind of from my perspective, it's anything that deals with the safety and security of students. And that includes, you know, crumbling grounds, these cameras that you're always talking about, which I think is important. And certain things like the roof. I mean, last year, I remember the lengthy discussion that you had given us with the slides, and I think some video about the roof that leaked and the damage that causes an extension beyond just a leak in a roof.
Correct.
So those are the mission critical things, and, you know, like, you know, the anecdotal things like chairs, you know, I don't think it's that big of an
The
issue.
chairs?
Yeah, I'll put that on like priority number 4. Yeah, no. So
That's a $1,000 job I'm talking about.
right, exactly.
$5
And I
million
think that's, you know, we want to see is a realistic list.
Yeah.
Like, this is the absolute has, we need to have this done. And then we can kind of budget accordingly, and we have to couple that with looking at the debt service and how that's changing, Chuck, in the next, you know, 5 to 10 years. So we have a comprehensive plan with regard to that, because we have been, as a board, kind of deferring some of these costs for as long as we conceivably could, but now it's catching up to us now, which I knew we anticipated, but we're here now, so.
I think the goal is
100%.
I think our goal is to defer it as long as we could, because we knew this
Correct.
debt was coming, so.
Correct. We were,
Service.
you know, putting out fires. So, and amongst all of this and all the planning that we can do, you always have to remember of the unexpected emergencies that came up like last year. That was $463,000 of unbudgeted money that came out of capital. So we always have to have that in the back of our minds, because that could come at any time again. Hopefully it doesn't, so.
Okay, really crazy question. No way to predict the sinkholes, like with like tapping on the ground or anything. They just happen. Okay, it's money for
afraid to ask.
the hole.
I'm afraid to ask what they're digging around that middle school turf field.
You don't have to know yet. We're in the survey stage. No, it's no problem there. All right, any other questions? No?
Technology's next.
Oh boy, more money. All right. Well, this is the technology presentation. It's always hard to follow Jim after his, especially when we're talking about money. This is a little preview of our capital project. We had over a little bit of $1 million for our capital project. We spent about close to $900,000 of that already, with $160,000 left. Most of our projects happen in the summer. Because that's when most of our work can be done. We can't really do a lot of our stuff during the school year. It's not nice to bring the network down during the year. People don't appreciate that. So we try to get as much done as possible. Just a little bit of what we completed over the summer. Of course, the 5th and 9th grade iPad one-to-one initiative and their cases went to all schools, right now being in 5th and 6th, 9th and 10th. The other big project we did was the technology education labs and their computers and monitor upgrades in the high school and middle school. These were Dell Precisions that were made to run AutoCAD, that they can actually run AutoCAD better on. These were actually designed to run AutoCAD for the tech education teachers in those grades. Another project that we have that's actually sort of completed, but it's on hold, is our Cisco UCS Blade and EMC storage. This is what runs our virtual desktop and our virtual servers. About 85% of the servers in our district are virtual servers, and we have 500 virtual desktops. This basically upgraded our system and added 15 extra terabytes of storage to our data center, and it also gave us 2 extra blades to help run the VDIs for our desktops, so we had more speed to run the virtual desktops. We were taking a look at our logs. Our virtual system's roughly 3 years old, and the students use it heavily. We actually average between 350 to 450 desktops in use per day, so it's actually used pretty heavily. So this is to help ease the load on it. Plus, we're getting ready to move Skyward over to it to retire an older server. So we wanted to make sure we had enough space to run that. And the Cisco UCS needed a little bit more, a little bit running more, a little bit more power. So we gave it a little bit more power. And then our Lightspeed content filter, which the students love, probably not, but we actually got 2 boxes. We upgraded to 2 boxes. Basically, it's a parent-child situation. Basically, the one box we had for our gig connection to the internet had to do all the work. Now the one box handles the gig connection, while the other handles all the reporting, all the configurations. So we're actually using our gigabyte connection a little bit more efficiently than we were before. So we get better speed to the internet because it doesn't have the burden of that processing on its box. It's all handled on the secondary box. Plus, if the one box goes, the other box can take over the process. So it actually adds a little bit of redundancy into our system. Projects in process. We are working on our document archiving and imaging scanning project with Image API, basically trying to get all the paper out of the basement. And if you've ever been down in the basement, there's a lot of paper and a lot of boxes. We're working with Image API with a program called Axiom Pro to scan everything in. Working right now with personnel, special education, and the student and active and inactive records to get them going. I've been in contact with these guys on a weekly basis. We're getting the personnel, getting them ramped and ready to go. Trying to get that process going. It's, like I said, it's a long process going on. Hopefully to get it going, get the boxes packed, get them on skids, and get them in a truck to get ready to go. Other thing we're working on is an Azure cloud server and an ADF, an Active Directory Federated Service cloud server. We're in the process of this where we actually have a server in Microsoft's cloud that we're working with. This will actually help us that if for some reason we might lose network connectivity, we still might be able to authenticate users outside of our network. It's still in the testing phases. We haven't rolled it out to all our servers yet, but this is to help make sure that we can stay a little bit more 24/7, that if students need to authenticate when they're not, when our network goes down for any reasons, or if the CCIU goes down, that we still have this option, because if Microsoft goes down, that's a big problem for everybody. But, hopefully that never happens. Projects to be completed yet. We're basically looking at a backup solution. Our backup solution, again, is 5 years old on a 5-year plan. We use Barracuda. We're looking at either going to Barracuda again or looking at another solution that can actually work to basically back up all our data in the district. We do have a lot of cloud-based initiatives, but we still have stuff that we keep locally that we'd like to back up. That's going to be done. Our current Barracuda contract runs out in February, and I want to make sure we, get the most bang out of our bucket till we actually choose another one. And if Barracuda is the one we want to use, another couple other companies are offering us different options as well, but we want to make sure that we get the best one that best suits our needs. Barracuda has done it. There's little things that are annoying with it, but we're, Dell and Cisco and a couple other companies are trying to sell us their business, so we're just weighing our options. For our presentation for 2018, 19, and beyond, some of our projects are not just going to be able to be done in 1 year. Some are going to actually stretch out, but they have to start this year. Our biggest project that has to be done in 2018, 19 is our firewall endpoint protection and our ISP, AMP, and data security monitoring. Our firewalls are at their end of life. They're at their 5-year, their 5-year cycle. So what we're looking to do, instead of just worrying about firewall security, which is border security for your network, because of the way cyber threats are today, and you probably see them on all the news articles today on how cybersecurity is such a big thing, like we're talking about, Jim, securing the cameras, securing the schools. Cybersecurity is a big thing that school districts have to start worrying about too. As a matter of fact, schools are probably going to be one of the next targets that hackers and people are going to probably try to start to attack. So we're trying to basically secure our network a little bit. So we're looking at a full solution. We're talking to Cisco, we're talking to Dell, we're talking to another company called Checkpoint. So they're basically looking at what we call a root to fruit secure system that starts at the endpoint of the computer, goes to the servers, goes to the switches, even actually goes outside our network into some kind of monitoring. So that's one of the solutions we're looking at. Can we maybe do it in a year? It'd be nice. Don't know what the price, again, since we're talking money and capital projects, we got to see what we can do to start off. We're trying to take a look at what we can and can't do, but again, this could be a year, but 2018, 2019, we got to start with something. Basically updating what we have and then building on top of that solution. And then we got to look at how we can protect against like anti-malware protection, how we can protect against DDoS attacks, how can we protect against intrusion detection, all that stuff, secure our data, make sure that we can plug up any holes, and all that other fun stuff. Data center is another thing that we're going to be looking at. We might have to upgrade the UPSs in the upcoming years. The UPSs that keep before the generator kicks on, they got to kick on. Their batteries are coming to an end at some point, so we're going to have to upgrade those. A teacher staff laptop refresh in 1819 is a possibility, is something we have to take a look at. Again, we're looking at, since maybe not like a full-blown super laptop, there's different models that are smaller kind of models that just are just as well and work just as good. Again, we're looking at Dell, we're looking at different other models like Lenovo, not Chris, now I'm drawing a blank, HP, all those other kind of companies that the teachers can use that will do just the same thing. Solid state drives, good memory, that kind of thing, that can meet the teacher's needs. Wireless access points, that's more of a 1920 kind of project. The high school and the middle school were the first ones to be done. That's when their 5-year cycle is over, so we're going to look at them because the technology has changed. The wireless is faster, they have to be replaced. The switches have to be replaced. Again, we have Cisco, but we're also looking at Dell's now because they have a switch line that's pretty good. Cisco Meraki has a switch line that's good. We're looking again at our options to get the best quality product we can for the best price. The one-to-one iPads, obviously, that's an ongoing project. Then the switches and the access points in elementary are later out, 2 years down the road. Again, 2 years down the road will be the virtual network. Right now, our virtual network is 2 boxes. It has a storage center and it has a switch center. But now the new storage is what they call a VRO, where it's an all-in-one inclusive unit where everything's together. That's the new kind of system that's hooked up. And instead of buying one massive thing, you can build it in stages, which we're trying to look at. Instead of spending like $500,000 in 1 year, you may be able to space it out in different units to make it more palatable, like $100,000 or $150,000 over 1 year, each year, instead of $500,000. You need a big bill 1 year, you can space it out in smaller units over multiple years. Voice over IP, right now we have a hybrid voice over IP system where it's just networking between the buildings. Jim and I may have to talk about that with maintenance and technology working together to upgrade the phone system at some point. Projection systems in all classrooms, taking a look with our smart boards because they're getting older and looking at maybe a new way to project without smart boards possibly as a way, or the new generation where the smart boards are different with short throw projectors, and there's different other methods we can use. Specialized computer labs refresh, like for art, music. Like I said, we did the technology lab this year. The district data backup system, that's always going to be down the road every 5 years until hopefully we never have to backup data, which is highly unlikely. We're always going to have to back up data somehow. And then the document imaging and archive, that's always going to be a yearly process unless we never have any documents in this district, which I hardly ever doubt. Any questions?
Okay, I'm sorry, but I have to do this. And I don't think this question's for you, but Regina, some of these things on this 2018, 19 and beyond are really ongoing things that we should be doing every year. So I'm a little confused as to, aren't the costs for those things in our budget already?
As Eric had shared, it's coming off of they'll have a 5-year life expectancy. So we don't build those into our budget every year. We build them into technology overall capital budget areas because we don't do it every year. But we know that if it's going to have a life expectancy of 5 years, on year 4, we're going to talk about doing that in year 5. What we don't want to do, just like a roof, if it has an expectancy of 10 years, we want to make sure that in our capital budget, we're going to replace it at the 10th year. We're not going to wait for it to fall apart. So that's much of the life expectancy issues that Eric was talking about.
Like, for instance, district data backup. I mean, isn't that something that we work on continuously? Wouldn't the costs of something like that already be budgeted in?
We do that, but the systems are changing and the data changes. So we always back up our data. It's the system used to back up the data that creates the large capital expenditure. Absolutely.
But I think.
Thank you.
I think Chuck alluded to long time ago tonight, like moving the iPads to being, like you said, we're always going to be spending $700,000 a year on iPads or whatever. I mean, eventually drops a little bit, but every year we're going to have new kids who need iPads, right, forever. So why isn't that just part of our regular operating budget? I think that's what Chuck was saying earlier. We probably ought to move that to more something that's all the time rather than, okay, I need a server for backups. I won't need another one of those for 5 years, but I can use this one for 5 years. And then that's more capital expending, but things that are ongoing every year is what you're saying, should be more operational. And I think that's always been a debate. Why is it in capital versus?
And once we do have the iPads throughout, they're going to be a yearly expense that we can count on, but not the large expense of buying them initially for the first time.
Do we have, I know the laptops, it seems to be, instead of stretching it so that we're kind of budgeting over the course of 5 years, so many laptops, like, I don't know, if like Katie Markley gets theirs in year one, like, are we trapped now into this 2-year, $700,000 replace everybody's laptop thing? Or is it a possibility that can, do you know what I mean? Because from what I see, we're going to do about $700,000 worth of laptops in 2 years, and it seems to be everybody's, and then we have like a
And,
couple
and
years
that's
off.
historically
and
what
then-
we've done, is we've done, and Stephen can correct me if he's listening. Historically, we've done the high school, middle school. It's hard to get like one department of the high school, one this year and then one next year. We try and keep all the levels the same if we can, and the elementaries are the same way, especially since we're moving teachers around depending on enrollment. They take their computer with them, so it's generally an elementary and then a secondary replacement. So yes, it's always going to be in a 2-year snap. We plan for 3, hope for 4, stretch to get 5. Does that sound right in technology?
And one of the things that one of the representatives is trying to do is they're trying to get us a better price. Like the Dell representative is trying to get us a better price. If we would do all the grades in 1 year, they're trying to get us a really low price, buy more for less. If they can get us, let's say we have like a $200,000 limit for the laptops. If we can get everybody under that $200,000 laptop price, it might just make more sense just to replace everybody and get everybody on the 5-year cycle. But if it doesn't make sense to do it, then we have to sort of like stagger because we can't meet the budgetary restraints. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Any other questions on the capital reserve budget at this point? I think we're good. Water treatment services recommendation?
Just a contract there for our water treatment services. It's basically from October of 17 through June of 2020.
And just to make sure everybody who's listening, this is for like boiler water treatment and things like that, not drinking water, correct?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
our
I'm just making
chilled
sure.
water that goes through
Yep,
the
just-
stuff,
yep.
and hot water boiler, and
I'm just making sure when people hear water treatment. All right,
it's not, the hot tub in my office doesn't get bid till for 2 years.
yep. Building use report is there for review. Moving on to finances, the budget timeline is all there for review. I think that was on the last couple months, nothing's changed, same timeline. You want to go through each of these, Chuck, and explain them, the tower health impact?
5.02 was a big deal last Monday. It was a little deal last Friday, so never mind. We have an agreement there with Rashini Group. They help us with some of the employer reporting for the Affordable Care Act. We are replacing the copiers in some of the copiers in the copy center. So we did an RFP on that. They are there. There's an agreement there for, Eric talked about the smart boards. We're looking at projectors and things long-term, as 10, 12 years ago, smart boards were a thing. They're starting to go out. You have a student activity fund there, donation of an Elmo. It's Bert and Ernie's cousin. Elmo is the-
Sometimes I think stuff is placed in here just to see if we're awake and paying attention. Yes, if I accept a $500 Elmo, I want to know what we're getting.
Well, correct me, Stephen, if I'm wrong, it's a thing that the teacher, yeah, it puts a document right up on the screen, right? There you go. So I was getting to that.
Thank you.
A nutrition in service there. And Smart training, Singapore math for teachers. I guess they're all going to Singapore. No,
This is how we get in trouble.
I'm sorry. No, we actually have a consultant coming in for those dates to teach this, right? Okay, see, like Trish. So it's right, it's the big thing. And then you have your reports, and really, that's all I got.
All right, thank you. All right, nothing under transportation, food service? Any other items? Yep. All right, real quick, response to public comments at the previous meeting. In response to comments made at our last school board meeting, the board would like to respond by clarifying that it never speaks specifically about a child's educational program in a public meeting. Often circumstances related to that program are much more complicated than they might seem. In addition, we are committed to protecting and preserving the student's right to privacy. That said, we have the utmost confidence that our administrative team has kept us informed, and they are addressing concerns related to any student's educational needs and programs in the most lawful and appropriate way possible. And I don't think there are any other comments from last meeting. The board met in executive session beforehand to discuss personnel and legal issues. Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, public comments. I open up the microphone for any, I missed that 11:01, yeah. Okay, well, seeing no public comments, I will now adjourn the meeting. You sure? You sure? Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good night.